Yeah, no, honestly, I couldn't pinpoint it to a specific artist or band. For me, it would honestly just be more things that were going on in life, politically speaking, at the time. And then just
I was gonna ask that because I know Guilty. You can definitely you can definitely tell it was written about bombing Iran at that time too. I could pick that out right
so
away.
funny story about that one is we changed the lyrics in both verses to make it about Iran because of what just happened. But then also,
Oh
yeah,
really?
so that song was written by Scream Bloody Murder, which is the other three guys in my band were in another band called Scream Bloody Murder prior, and that they wrote that song, and then we changed it a little bit, like the tempo a little bit. We made it a little bit slower. I think he might have changed the guitar solo for our recording, and then yeah, I changed the lyrics so that it was Iran instead of Iraq, because originally it was written about the Iraq War. And then we changed the second verse to reflect, excuse me, um, how the media kind of plays games with people and gets them to like choosing sides based on emotions, and how it's all kind of predestined to happen anyways, regardless of which left or right side you choose. Like in terms of like the liberals and the conservatives, or the Democrats and the Republicans, not meaning left and right as the whole spectrum, because
The political
yeah,
parties,
yeah, like
basically.
the mainstream political parties, because like obviously I consider myself an anarchist, or like a anarcho-syndicalist, and like partial socialist, I guess. And yeah, I definitely would consider myself on the left spectrum, but not in the mainstream left. And that's where
Yep, couldn't have
I
said
think
it
a
any
lot of people
better.
don't see that either. They just want to pick left or right. Left or right is liberal or conservative. Period. They don't understand that there's a three-dimensional spectrum to all of it.
Nuance is a thing that people don't really like to talk about when it comes to politics, especially, well, I shouldn't say just especially in this country, but yes, this country particularly. Like when it comes to voting, if you're voting left, you get either the liberals or you get the NDPs, or if you really wanted to, the
Mm.
Greens. And none of those parties are even close to what I would actually want out of, like,
Yep.
you know what I mean? Like, it is, but it isn't. Like, everything you just said there, narco-syndicalist with a bit of, like, socialism. That's basically what I am here as well, too. Just working class, like, labor
Mm-hmm.
politics, basically, within, like, a framework of just liberal ideology in some
Mm-hmm.
respects. Like, but at the same time, like, who are you gonna vote for? Like, are we just gonna keep voting for, like, the same fucking people we always have, and left, right, Pepsi
Mm-hmm.
Cola, Pepsi Coke? You know what the difference? What
Yeah, and
difference does it make? Like,
continue down that same path of insanity, really. Like left to right, left to right, left to right, and nothing ever changes. So, like, I don't know. That's why, personally, I've never voted. Yeah, and honestly, like, with what's going on in the States right now, I know it's starting over police brutality and um, like the killing of black men, women, and children by racist cops. But with the amount of people who are standing up and the amount of direct action that's being taken, and radical direct action, we really could see and
yup.
what Trump just decided to do today, we could really see this turn into the revolution.
I see it as a big, like, radicalizing moment a lot for a lot of Americans. Like, definitely this whole, like, COVID, like, crisis has definitely done that. Like, as far as I've seen, like, woken up a lot of people to the ideas that things could actually be a lot better, and things could actually be a lot different if we decided to make these changes together,
Mm-hmm.
sort of thing. And now with this, and now with literally the states on fire with over, like we were just talking about, I think you're right. I think you're right with that. Like, people are seeing that it's not the ballot that's going to push these changes through. It's literally going out there and saying, no, you cannot deny this to us anymore. We have to have something done about this now. And riots work.
And yeah, and honestly, like I watched a video of this girl talking yesterday. They were at one of the senates.
I saw that video. Yeah, I know what
you're talking and she said, like, you taught us violence, you taught us looting, like, and she's 100% right.
Yep.
And
it's that old.
Unfortunately, it's the same thing with World War II. Like, look what Hitler was doing. Unfortunately, it took worse violence to be able to stop him. And unfortunately, sometimes people see it as violence, but it is an act of self-defense. And unfortunately, it needs to come to that sometimes for people to listen.
Yeah, especially when it's something like, ever since, like, it's been going on for like hundreds of years, but Trayvon Martin was the one that really, like, when that one, just even thinking about it now, it still fucking breaks my heart just thinking about that kid. Like that could have easily been me, that could have easily been anybody I know, just because they were walking home getting, but that whole thing, and then him getting off, the fucking Zimmerman getting off on it and everything like that, that's where I was kind of like, oh, okay, there's something way, 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 way bigger at play than just a black kid getting shot in the streets here and no one giving a shit.
Yeah, exactly. No, honestly, and I remember that case. Excuse me. I remember that case as well, and just, yeah, like you said, you sitting here talking about it, like, it just gives me goosebumps to think about the whole thing. And unfortunately, it's happens over and over and over, and not just, it's not like a monthly occurrence, it's not a yearly occurrence or something like that. Like, it's on the daily, and it's happening in multiple places and on the daily, and it, like, I can't believe it's taken this long for people to get to this point and to realize these things. Like, people that I never ever would have expected to be sharing or saying anything about what's going on are fully on side with the rioting protesters. They want to see something actually happen, and they want to go to a protest. They've never been to one in their life, and, like, it's really waking people up to the fact that unless we do something real, nothing's gonna change. And unfortunately, doing something real now means threatening their structure of power. I mean, not unfortunately either, in my opinion, but...
No, it needs to be. Like, that's how things change, is when you change your relationship to, like, your relations to the power structure and how you relate to that. That's when society changes. It's the personal, it's on the personal level, like, that be the change you want to see in the world, but it's just in relation to, like, the power structure. Once you've changed how you interact with that, you've already changed the structure itself.
I totally agree.
Once again, like, all I've done for like 2 months now is just read anarchist literature and shit like that, just getting more and more crazier and just more and more radical as the days go on. Just like that line from Apocalypse Now, every time Charlie squats in the bush, he gets stronger. I'm Charlie in the bush getting stronger.
No, it's funny to think, too, like, the pandemic has honestly only given people the time to be able to see and realize these things, because even now, like, with the murder of George Floyd, and then also with what happened with Regis Korchinski-Paquet in Toronto, even, I really, truly, if the economy was fully open, blah, 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 people were at work, people were at school, and all that, the normal stresses of life, it wouldn't be what it is.
It would have just been another news
that,
story.
like, maybe another Ferguson within Minneapolis and stuff like that, but it wouldn't have spread like wildfire like it has. Like America is burning right now. Like every major city across the US has riots, has buildings on fire, cop cars burnt out, precincts destroyed, and rightfully so. And if I really think that if the pandemic hadn't have happened, if people weren't at home, weren't scrolling through Facebook constantly, watching the news constantly, that there wouldn't be as much of a flame behind what's happening right now.
You're 100% right on all that. Like, it's definitely it's like a perfect storm.
Especially
sort of
since we watched like the extreme right-wing groups do all that armed protest shit last couple of weeks with absolutely zero consequence, like at all.
Literally standing face to face, screaming at cops, and they walked away unharmed. And then there's people who are on the front line right now just standing there getting shot in the face with rubber bullets and losing eyes. I've seen that twice now.
Could you, in New York, the police, they drove a vehicle into the protesters, like as if this was Charlotte. I
saw that too.
What are you, the fucking Nazis down in Charlottesville? Like, seriously.
Yep. And I think it was in New York too. I saw one of the cops flash the white power symbol at one of the protesters, and they got cheers for it. It's fucked, man. Like, honestly, like, the one place that I saw didn't have anything like that, where the cops actually were decent, was Flint. And they said, no, we're not beating you. We're putting down our helmets. We're putting down our shields. What do you want us to do? And they all said, walk with us.
And honestly, like, at that point, that they said that they asked the community that they put their batons and their helmets down, they stopped being police officers and became members of the community.
I think that's actually the time they became police officers. If we're looking at what it actually means, like, it's to be a pillar of a community, an ethical pillar of your community. You're to police your community as a member of the community, not an agent enforcing laws. It's a difference between policing and soldiering. The Wire was this TV show that pointed that out to me. It's a difference between occupying your enemy territory and then this being your neighborhood. And I think at that moment, that's when everyone saw, like, oh no, this is what it should be when it comes to the police force. And
there's a video too from somewhere in Florida. I can't remember where. It was like a smaller place, not a big city or anything. But they had a rally, and there was a couple hundred people showed up, and there was 2 cops who joined over to the other side, and they chanted with the protesters about fuck police brutality, and like straight up we're chanting it. And it's like, good for you, but unfortunately right now we're at a point where you're gonna have to take that uniform completely off and come over here and join us until all of the bad cops are arrested, until all of the, you know what I mean,
until the system has been like what's the word, like exhumed, like taken out all like the bad apple sort of thing. But what they did there is like trying to distance themselves from it, say, look, not all cops. I understand that. I completely understand that. But at the same time, what you just said, you got to take off that uniform first, bud.
Exactly. And I
because this is a job at the end of the day.
Yep. And like honestly, I totally get that, because like what we were talking about earlier, like the skinhead culture thing. Not all skinheads are Nazis. Not all, you know what I mean? Not all Nazis are skinheads either. And
exactly,
like, it's just generalizing and creating more issues that way by having something like that. But at the same time, because there is an institution of power behind you and behind your badge, and because you are the agents of the state, you unfortunately only represent that while you are wearing that badge. And even if you come over to our side right now to say not all cops, but you're still benefiting from that system of power, what difference does it make?
It's like privilege.
Exactly.
It's like the white
Exactly.
privilege sort of thing. But it's even worse because you have privilege over white people too as
And
well.
then you got a gun on top of it.
Exactly. You have the license to fucking kill and, you'd put your boot on people, basically. Yep. Like, yeah. So yeah, I totally agree with you there. You'd have to like completely strip that away for it to be like, no, this is us as people in the community, and that was my former job sort of thing. Because that, like I said, like that's what, like that Blue Lives Matter shit really got me fucking steamed up when it first started coming out. Because like, bitch, this is a job. You can walk away from this at any time.
Yep.
Like, honestly.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. And then on top of it too, all it's doing is, one, demoralizing, and two, denouncing what Black Lives Matter is. And it's the same thing as that all lives matter bullshit. It's like,
it's diluting what they're saying.
Yeah, like, okay, so if there's one house on fire on your entire street, should the fire department come and spray down all of the houses that aren't on fire with water just because all houses matter? Like, yes, everybody's house matters, but right now, this is the house that's on fire. And I saw someone make that, like, equation on, I think it was Twitter. And, like, I was like, you know what? That's, like, the absolute perfect thing to explain that to people. Like, if your house was on fire, would you want the fire department to show up to your street and start spraying down the houses that are not on fire first before they come and spray down your house because all houses matter? Like,
that was when I'm in the same boat. That was the first time I heard that, like, a couple days ago, and I was like, bam, like, they just put that perfectly, like, instead of just like, yeah, and just try, like, you can tell people till you're blue in the face, like there's this, that's the other thing that gets me up the wall too. It's just like, you can tell people this, you can show them the evidence right in front of their fucking face that this system is racist, this system is terrible, this system has done unbelievably violent and brutal things to people, and they still don't, they choose to look past it. It just doesn't, it blows my mind.
Or they'll either look past it, or they'll find a way to justify it through, we wouldn't be the society that we are today, or this, or whatever the fuck it is. And it's like, well, no.
What about those people?
Yeah, exactly. What about all the people who you denied humanity to?
Exactly. And this is just the chickens coming back to roost with that. Like you said, you taught us this violence. You taught us how to loot. You've turned us into these dehumanized people. What the fuck did you expect?
Exactly. And when there's no other avenue to be able to show your anger, not only like legally speaking, but where someone will listen, then like why would you even waste your time?
Basically, what you said there was this Malcolm X was who talked about that a lot. That influenced me about that. Is basically say like it's okay to be nonviolent with people who understand what nonviolence is, but when you're dealing with an enemy who doesn't know what nonviolence is, you're wasting your time.
Exactly, and like that's what I was meaning to say. Excuse me. When you've exhausted all other options, like in the States right now, like groups like Black Lives Matter or anybody who's leading the way in these protests, do you really think that they haven't tried sending letters to their MPs, to their senators, signing petitions, making phone calls, doing Twitter storms, all this hippy-dippy bullshit that didn't do anything? You think they didn't try that? Like, no, they tried. They tried for years. This has been going on, like, let's even just say since the start of the Black Lives Matter movement after Ferguson. And that was 2015, or 14.
Like that.
Anyways, regardless, so like even let's just say within the last 10 years, you think nobody's signed a petition or sent an email or a phone call to their senator in the States, or tried to make a court case, a civil suit against the police, or blah blah blah. How many have we seen in the news over and over and over that where the cops win, or they get to keep their job, or this or that, or whatever it is? Like, they have exhausted all other options. This is what's left, and if you're not going to listen, then this is what's left.
And this isn't even the end of it too. Like, as I'm looking at this is like stage 1 of potential 4.
Yeah.
Like, how we are right now, this is like stage 1. Because the next level up is Christopher Dorner's everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a whole other different ball of wax.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say, when it starts turning into fucking body count cop killer in every single city, they'll second guess thinking or listening. Unfortunately, like, and
you'd think,
like,
you'd hope, anyways. Yeah, like, shit.
Yep, but I mean, and then again, unfortunately, like, you've already got Trump calling in the National Guard. You've already got Trump calling any and all members of Antifa or whatever. So anyone who labels themselves an anti-fascist or is in cahoots with a so-called anti-fascist is now on the terrorist watch list. And, like,
I saw that.
Put me on your terrorist list, Trump. You're the biggest terrorist in the world right now. So what does that mean coming from you? It doesn't mean a thing.
But the only other issue I have with that is it's other people out here too that are starting to see this. Like, I was on Instagram just before I came on this, and people are talking shit about anarchists, like, wrecking things and putting, like, graffiti everywhere. And it's just like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, this is like nothing. These people are like your allies. Why are we trying to, like, split this even further?
And
just because they're wearing, like, black bloc clothing, like,
and
shit.
Honestly too, like, that's one of my biggest issues with the whole liberal left is anytime they see any type of radical action take place, they want to distance themselves from it. They want to denounce it and say that it's violence or it's this or it's that. And, like, especially like right now, anybody, like, if you're denouncing what people and the protesters are doing in the States right now, you're choosing the side of the police, and you're choosing the side of racism. And that, in my opinion, is what these liberal groups are doing by distancing themselves from it, by saying, oh, violence is wrong and blah blah blah. It's like, you're not on the ground living it. Most of these people who are saying this stuff come from places of privilege. And yeah, it's ridiculous.